If you want to feel the wind blowing through your hair and see the great city of Nashville at the same time, check out Nashville Scooter Tours. Trekking through the downtown streets to Music Row with Nashville Scooter Tours is safe, eco-friendly, and a whole lot of fun. They use Xenon electric scooters that go 55 miles on a single charge. Find out more by calling 615-290-5563 or book your reservation today at NashvilleScooterTours.com. Today's show is brought to you by locally owned and operated Highland Rim Speedway. Highland Rim Speedway is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year with great short-track door-to-door stock car racing in a safe, family-friendly atmosphere. Visit their website at highlandrim.com.
Hey buddies, and welcome back to Week 15 of Football Fantasy on the field with me, Nancy Filippelli, and my partner in crime, Sharra Rivera.
Hey, that's
me.
me.
Hi, Sharka.
Good to be here.
Good to be back. Okay, I have an announcement to make. Brian, drum roll, please. I made the playoffs!
Yay!
Like we all didn't see that coming. I mean, really, let's be honest, right? And I hope you guys did too. This week we'll be talking about staying alive in your postseason and making it to the Super Bowl and take home that title. We also have a special guest on the show today, William Stark the 14th. He is a fantasy football guru. He is also in 347 leagues and made the playoffs in each and every single one. He is actually the rightful owner of the fantasy football team Touched by an Uncle that I wrongly accused Preston Brust of Low Cash Cowboys of being in. Remember that? Mm. Yeah. Oops. Anyway, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
From the family grocery hauler to fire-breathing racing engines, the one name you need to know is USA Motor and Machine, located at 51 Cleveland Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. Give them a call at 615-726-3725 or at usamotorandmachine.com. Jeff Meeks and Chris Austin invite you to watch your favorite sports event at the Batter's Box at 43 Hermitage Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. The Batter's Box offers shuttle service to all Titans home games. It's a great place for friends to gather for the game and after the game. So check out the Batter's Box Bar and Grill, and thanks again for sponsoring the show.
Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis.
We're back with the Jets-Titans matchup. I don't care if the Titans pull down their pants and take a big dumpster on the field for the rest of what's left of the season.
Whoa.
I know. As long as they bury the bodies on Monday night with the game against the Jets. This contest may look like a snooze fest, but there are some interesting fantasy situations to take into consideration. The Jets, 6-7, still hold some playoff hopes after beating the Jaguars last week. Meanwhile, the Titans, 4-9, are pretty much just playing out the season, but would love to crush the Jets' playoff hopes at home. And I would love nothing more as well.
Obviously.
Wouldn't you, Sharka?
Yes.
Even with the pair of subpar teams, this will still be some fantasy considerations in the mix in this one. Let's take a closer look at the major names. Sean Green, running back for the New York Jets. Green has been a fairly solid fantasy producer over the past couple seasons. Green has put together 2 good fantasy weeks in a row with 20-plus carries in both, so I'd start him against the Titans defense. Chris Johnson, running back for the Tennessee Titans. Those who drafted Johnson in the first round this year haven't gotten quite the returns that they were hoping for. After a horrid start this season, he increased production to the point where he was relevant in fantasy. Then, over the past couple weeks, has fallen off again.
Oh.
I know, it's very sad. He has just 95 yards over the last 2 games and hasn't scored in 3 weeks. The Jets have been vulnerable against the run, however, so Johnson has a good chance at getting into the end zone once again. So start him. I'll be at the game using all my ninja powers to make the Jets lose this one.
Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis.
All right, let's do some sit-em and start-ems, and let's start with quarterbacks, and let's start with Josh Freeman at the New Orleans Saints. Freeman is a terrific fantasy option this week as he faces the Saints defense that has allowed more fantasy points to quarterbacks overall than any other team in the league. Back in Week 7, Freeman ripped this unit for 420 yards, 3 scoring passes, and 30 fantasy points. Expect another productive stat line for this veteran. Andy Dalton versus the Philadelphia Eagles Thursday night. Dalton is coming off a mediocre stat line and a loss to the Dallas Cowboys, but I would still have faith in him on Thursday night based on a matchup against the Eagles. Quarterbacks have scored 16-plus fantasy points in 5 straight contests against Philadelphia's vulnerable pass defense. So Dalton is a valid, solid fantasy option. Start him. Carson Palmer versus Kansas City Chiefs. Palmer hasn't been the most consistent fantasy option in 2012, but he's a viable starter when the matchup is favorable. That's the case this week as he faces a Chiefs defense that has allowed 25 touchdown passes overall and an average of 18 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. That makes Carson Palmer well worth a start. Sleeper alert, Colin Kaepernick at New England Patriots. He's actually still a free agent in some of the leagues.
Really?
Yeah, on NFL.com and in our league as well. But he's scored 17-plus fantasy points in 4 of his 5 last games and is now a legitimate option. The Patriots have given up an average of over 17 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks overall, so don't be afraid to start him. I know I'm going to try and pick him up.
Well, you should. Let's hear about sit-ems now.
Okay, why don't we? Jay Cutler versus the Green Bay Packers. Cutler is expected to play this week, but he's not a good option to start against the Packers. The veteran has averaged just 217 yards with 7 touchdowns and 15 interceptions against Green Bay during his career with the Bears. He has also thrown for fewer than 225 yards in 4 of his last 6 games against the Pack. Sit him. On that note, sit anybody playing against the Packers' explosive offense. Wouldn't you say so?
I would say so.
I love when she agrees with me. Owners beware, Eli Manning at the Falcons. This game in Atlanta could turn into a shootout, but the numbers don't bode well for Manning. In fact, the Falcons have allowed just 12 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks at home. This unit also forced Eli's big brother, Peyton, to throw 3 interceptions and post his worst fantasy stat line of the year. And they're coming off a bad loss, so I would definitely sit him. That's for sure. Joe Flacco versus the Denver Broncos. Broncos have given up an average of fewer than 13 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks on the road. Also, Flacco just scored 7 fantasy points in his last home game versus the Steelers. Not a good idea. Running backs, stardom, Reggie Bush versus Jacksonville Jaguars. While he's been inconsistent in the stat sheets in 2012, Bush is still a tremendous option for fantasy owners this week. That's based on a great matchup against the Jaguars, who have given up the 2nd most fantasy points to backs overall. In fact, their defense has allowed over 26 points to this position 2 straight games. Sleeper alert, Knowshon Moreno at Baltimore Ravens. I actually spent some time with Knowshon last weekend in Denver. We played beer pong together.
Fun.
It was so much fun. I won.
Yeah, right.
He was on a mission, and if he can be that competitive with his teammates, then you can bet he's going to dominate the Ravens so Denver can have a bye week the first week of the playoffs. Marino has earned the featured backfield role in Denver, and his huge workload last week proves it. A viable fantasy flex starter across the board. He has a great matchup this week against the Ravens defense that has allowed an average of 20 fantasy points per game to runners on the road.
Let's talk about sit-ems.
Why don't we?
Okay, go.
Sit-ems. D'Angelo Williams at San Diego Chargers. Williams put up a nice stat line last week with 112 yards and 1 touchdown against the Falcons. However, it was the first time he has been in double digits since week 4. The Chargers have also been tough on the run at home for running backs, allowing the 8th fewest fantasy points to the position so far this season. So sit him for sure. Wide receivers, start him. Steve Smith at San Diego Chargers. Smith has been on fire in recent weeks, posting 229 yards and 1 touchdown in his last 2 games. He should remain productive against the Chargers, who have allowed a league-high 18 touchdown catches, tied with the Saints, and the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers overall.
That's
tied
right.
with the Patriots this season. Miles Austin versus Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers' defensive backline is plagued with injuries to some of its top players. With or without Des Bryant, Austin should be active as number 2 or 3 wideout against Pittsburgh. Sit-ems, Larry Fitzgerald versus the Detroit Lions. This week's matchup against the Lions isn't good or bad, but Fitzgerald's quarterback situation is a mess. Everybody puts up bigger numbers than him. You can't just trust him, and you can't put him in your postseason, not in this lineup, not when you're playing in your playoff situation. Owners beware, Pierre Garçon at Cleveland Browns. Garçon has been hotter than a DC sidewalk in the summer, scoring a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. So while it's hard to keep him on the bench, keep in mind that he'll be facing cornerback Joe Hayden, obviously, and a Browns defense that has given up the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers at home on the field this year. Defense. Start Lions defense at Arizona Cardinals. Bengals defense at the Philadelphia Eagles, and sleeper alert, Dolphins defense at Jacksonville Jaguars. I like this week's matchup against Chad Henne and the Jaguars. Defenses have combined to score the 7th most fantasy points against Jacksonville overall, so the Fins are a viable choice. Start them. Start my hometown defense.
What about kickers?
Oh, do we really want to talk about kickers?
I don't have to. We can go to commercial break.
Well, last week I told you to start Matt Prater, and I was right. He scored 14 fantasy points against their biggest rivals, the Oakland Raiders. But this week,
I don't think he's going to get that many.
they're playing their. Do you know why he scored that many points?
Tell me.
It's because I wished him good luck.
Wow.
Yes. Ooh, my shoes.
You're a
Do you hear
football. They are.
They're coming at the perfect
A
time.
football muse, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And this week, I will not be taking that call, Matt Prater, okay? So, good luck. And everybody, sit him, because he's not going to do well this week, okay?
So, beware now.
That's right.
Well, I think we should go to commercial break.
Yes, we should.
Come back with our Twitter mailbag and your special guest for today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Stay tuned.
Microcasting for your city. Talkapolis.
Jeff Meeks and Chris Austin invite you to watch your favorite sports event at the Batters Box at 43 Hermitage Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. The Batters Box offers shuttle service to all Titans home games. It's a great place for friends to gather for the game and after the game. So check out the Batters Box Bar and Grill, and thanks again for sponsoring the show.
We are back with my special guest, William Stark the 14th, fantasy football guru, and he is in 347 leagues, and he made the playoffs in every single one. I don't know how he did it. Let's let him tell us how he did it.
Well,
welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It took a lot of time. Luckily, all I do is play fantasy football, and I make my living by doing interviews just like this.
I'm paying him in, can we say that?
Let's keep that for your imaginations.
He is also the rightful owner, like I said before, of the fantasy football team named Touched by an Uncle. Where did that come from?
One of several. It's a play on words for Touched by an Angel, actually. Not quite sure where I heard it. Thought it was funny, thought it was clever, and stuck with it. It's been good luck.
Yes. Well, we watched football together not too long ago, and you were giving me some football tips, some fantasy football tips. Did you make your own playoffs?
I did.
You did?
I made the playoffs in all 347 of my leagues, as you just mentioned.
I know, but like for real, you made your playoffs.
Yes.
That's awesome. So who do you have as your starting lineup?
Right now, it kind of depends. I kind of play week by week, but my muscle horses are Eli. It's been good for me.
We talked about sitting him, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has been slacking a little bit, but he's still one of the top, 5 or 6 in the league.
That's true.
Forte has been a big disappointment for me.
I know. I think sit him for sure.
Yeah, actually the Texans D has helped me out a lot on some of the defensive games. And some pretty clutch pickups like Teach Me How to Dougie Martin. And
Right.
And Victor Cruz was strong early in the season and opportunistic on Bryce Brown, actually. We'll talk about both of them in a minute.
Oh. I love him. What do you think about kickers?
Kickers, I have no idea. I typically just go with everyone Yahoo or ESPN recommends me.
Who's your kicker? Who's your starter?
I have Matt Bryant for the Falcons. He's been pretty good. I like the dome
So glad
kickers.
he said a different last name than I was expecting. Right. All right. Well, we have some Twitter questions for you, the guru. Thankfully that you're in the studio today. At Fat Marlon Brando writes to you, after last week's performance, do you recommend starting Ahmad Bradshaw or David Wilson this week? What do you think?
Well, Marlon,
You can call him Fat. It's okay.
Fat Marlon. I was trying to be polite there. I had to go with Ahmad Bradshaw here. The Giants are really trying to clinch that home field, or at least get further in the playoffs or into the playoffs, and I think he's just got a lot to play for.
Thicker than a snicka. We always go to his questions, and he wants to know Romo or Big Ben.
First of all, thicker than a snicka. I'm a little curious as to what is thicker than a snicka.
Well,
besides that, I would have to go with Romo here. He's wildly inconsistent, and it takes a lot of a thick snick to go with him this week. But it's not quite the playoffs yet, and Big Ben just isn't quite in postseason form. So I got to go with Romo and hope he has a big game.
And also, he got hurt a couple weeks ago, and he was out for a few games there, and last week was his first game back, and he didn't really produce as well as he should. So, and I had Romo last week. He got me like 25 points.
Yeah, he's hit or miss, and Big Ben's playing for next season right now.
That's right. Okay, at Dexter's Library, better flex start Bryce Brown or Victor Cruz?
Got to go with Victor Cruz here.
Why do you say that?
Bryce Brown, like I said earlier, he was a flash in the pan. I got lucky off of him one week, but Victor Cruz is pretty consistent, and I really think Eli and the Giants are really looking towards the pro season right now.
And why wouldn't we listen to your advice? You are in 347 leagues, and you're in the playoffs in every single one. Why wouldn't we? How many times have you won the Super Bowl, the whole title? How many times have you taken home the title?
In fantasy football?
Yeah.
This is my first season playing fantasy football. All or nothing. Go
wow.
Big or go home.
Really? That's amazing. Why do they call you the guru?
Because I got to have a lucky win streak going.
Why are,
undefeated champ so far.
Why are you the 14th?
Because I have 13 people with the same name before me.
That's amazing. Don't you guys think that's amazing? That's incredible. Okay. So, East Coast Dog wants to know, who is the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league?
I'm biased here. Originally from Atlanta, I got to go Matt Ryan, Julio Jones.
I like them too. I have Matt Ryan.
I think that's a pretty stiff wrestle between that and Stafford and CJ, even still. But
oh, I know.
I got to go Ryan and Jones.
You're going with your heart. S. Cabernicki-Sonville. What? Can Andrew Luck expose the Texans, like Brady did? Can he? Can he? Can he? Can he?
No. The Texans are not the Tennessee Titans. As I mentioned earlier, they've had a good defense. Andrew Luck can expose a few teams in the league. He's been very solid for him, but he is nowhere near the threat that Brady is yet.
I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, with 3 weeks left, who is your vote for MVP? Extraordinary Hair wants to know.
Extraordinary Hair. Well, I guess you're right here, so I don't know why you had to tweet that question, but
So
my vote's
sweet.
got to be Brady.
Billy loves me.
It's got to be Brady.
Brady. I agree.
You know, he's in postseason form. It's either that or Peyton Manning, just for the sentimental reason that he came back for another season and he's leading that team. I think it'll really come down to this kind of last stretch between those two.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for answering these questions. I really do appreciate
You're welcome.
Is there anything that you want to tell the viewers? Any advice that you can give them to making their playoffs if they haven't already made them, and to making it to the Super Bowl and winning?
Well, I have news. If you haven't made the playoffs already, you're probably not going to make them because every league that I'm in, the playoffs have started. So,
and that's 347 of them. So,
for those of you that are in the playoffs, good luck. You know, look out for those last few weeks where teams are throwing the game or giving all they got. So, what
happens when your starter is sat because they don't want to ruin them because they're already in, like, you know how those situations are? What should somebody do then?
Well, you got to kind of got to plan ahead and look at their records.
You got to pick somebody else up.
And pick somebody else up a couple weeks in advance before other people do.
Or do like a shady trade with somebody that didn't make the playoffs on your team. Say, throw them like $20 and be like, hey, you're not playing anymore, but you have Aaron Rodgers, and like pick him up.
If you want to be shady like that, that's an option.
I mean, not me. I don't want to be shady, but you know, you, or you know.
Possibly. You want to trade?
What about Billy? Why don't you love me? Let's talk about that.
Well, I never said I didn't love you. I just didn't.
So you do love me.
Explicitly say that I did. I'm somewhere in between right now. I'm in like.
You're in like with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Every time I ask like a ridiculous question, Brian, our camera guy, will do that. Do you see him?
Yeah. Don't answer that.
And then he'll go like this. And he used to have this really cool circusy mustache for Movember.
Oh, nice.
I know. So when he did it, it kind of freaked me out. But now it doesn't so much. He just kind of looks like a creepy Jack in the Box that's about to be like, ah. You know what I mean?
There he goes. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show, Billy.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with the schedule.
Microcasting for your city. Talkapolis.
From the family grocery hauler to fire-breathing racing engines, the one name you need to know is USA Motor and Machine, located at 51 Cleveland Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. Give them a call at 615-726-3725 or at usamotorandmachine.com.
You guys, this is my very least favorite part of the show. as we talk about injuries.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I always say that I'm going to make them some cookies and some brownies. And today I actually made everybody
Peppermint brownies
I did.
for
I
the
made
office.
peppermint brownies for everybody at the studio today. And everyone
They were
loved them,
delicious.
and they loved me, and they told me how pretty I was and all that, so it made me feel better. So anyway, Robert Griffin III.
Oh.
I know, for the Redskins, probably won't play, but his backup saved the day last week, so pick him up if he's still available. Des Bryant, he got hurt, but look, you keep your eyeballs out for him. Dwayne Bowe, Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, wide receiver.
Donald Brown is hurt for the Indianapolis Colts. The New York Giants, Hakeem Nicks, still out with his knee. Keep your eye on him, though, because he may play. And let's go to the schedule. Week 15 schedule. Thursday's game, Cincy at Philly tonight. New York Giants at Atlanta. Minnesota at St. Louis. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Who else?
Well, Jacksonville at Miami. Those
I
are
wanted
your
to do that one.
Dolphins.
My Dolphins.
Indianapolis at Houston.
Did you see the massacre that the Houston had on Monday night?
I missed it.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
gosh. The Patriots crushed the Houston Texans. Did
Oh,
you see
yeah,
that?
yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
I remember
bloody
hearing about it.
massacre. I was shocked, actually, because the Houston Texans have been doing really well.
I think the Pats are going to the Super Bowl.
I know.
That's how we got our country.
They have been on.
Do you think that they're going to go to the Super Bowl,
I
you guys?
I do.
I
I think
do.
they've been on par.
I do too.
They're pretty unstoppable
Gisele's gonna like crush
Is she
foes if they don't. I mean,
She's-
she'll go like batshit crazy.
She battled all the reporters last time.
I know.
When
She
Tom
stands by her
Brady's-
man.
She does, and she's pregnant again.
Oh
so
shit! She is
she's-
gonna be like
She is gonna be out of
hormone
control.
central.
So Brady
you guys-
better perform.
He better.
That's all we have to
That's
say.
damn it
Let's
right.
get back to the schedule.
Washington at Cleveland, Green Bay at Chicago, which is going to be a banner, stellar matchup. Great game.
Chicago fans are crazy.
Denver at Baltimore, but we don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
Carolina at San Diego, Seattle at Buffalo, Detroit at
Arizona.
Kansas City at the Oakland Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cowboys, San Francisco at New England. That's going to be a good
And
matchup, too.
Monday night, we have our Titans-Jets matchup.
Which I am very excited about. Like I said, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to bring my ninja powers so I can make them lose. I'm going to fully, completely
That's what the
concentrate so
Jets
that
get.
they can lose. That's right.
All
Thank you guys so much for watching, and send your Twitter questions, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Microcasting for your city. Talkapolis.